Pandemonium erupted on the set of CBS Sunday Morning this week, as a pre-taped interview with Meghan Markle descended into chaos after veteran journalist Jane Pauley shockingly demanded the Duchess provide evidence that her 2 children with Prince Harry actually exist. What began as a promotional sit-down for Markle's new podcast startup quickly devolved into a cringe-worthy display of combative outbursts and denunciations once the former royal grew enraged over repeated requests for verification about Archie and Lilibet's legitimacy. I could sense the tension in the air almost immediately after Ms. Pauley opened by asking for clarification on a few inconsistencies we'd noticed across several of Meghan's most recent media statements concerning her family situation, disclosed a CBS staff member present for the sudden unraveling captured by studio cameras. But I don't think any of us could have possibly anticipated the degree of hostility that seemed to trigger in the Duchess. According to multiple sources involved, Pauley's initial line of questioning stemmed from recent discoveries by the show's fact-checking team. These allegedly uncovered numerous contradictions and logical gaps surrounding the basic identities and personal histories Markle had recounted about her children's lives across various prior interviews and public messaging. Jane very diplomatically circled back to some glaring discrepancies, like referencing birthdays and conception timelines for the 2 kids that seemed out of sync with Harry's royal military deployments during the period cited, the staffer continued, seeming to convey a mix of bewilderment and discomfort revisiting the train wreck. But the moment she followed up by politely asking something along the lines of, "So before we proceed, perhaps you could show a verification document or 2 for our records?" Well, that's when all hell just completely broke loose. While obviously caught off guard by Pauley's firm request for tangible verification around the existence of her purported children, Markle's reaction from that point rapidly metastasized into an increasingly unhinged meltdown surpassing all norms of civil public behavior based on corroborating reports. Her initial look of shock and confusion contorted into a trembling fury, as the Duchess appeared utterly unmoored by the simple ask for substantiating evidence in the face of irregularities raised. You could literally see her entire facial musculature shifting into sheer meltdown mode, like some medieval carnival mask of comically deranged vigor might have depicted, graphic described line producer Elliot Kurtz, shaking his head. One second she's sitting upright delivering her usual brunch reception niceties, then seemingly out of nowhere, Meghan's boggling red-faced while croaking these shrill chicken squawk clucks at increasing volume toward poor Jane. Before anyone on set could react or inject to defuse tensions, Markle proceeded to abruptly launch into a stunningly hostile tirade directly leveled at Pauley, according to eyewitness accounts and footage of the outburst. Markle's animated diatribe saw the Duchess furiously accusing the veteran broadcaster of actively persecuting motherhood and contributing to campaigns of dehumanizing disinformation propagated by the royal family. "She went from zero to pants-crapping bonkers faster than I've ever witnessed," recalled Kurtz with an astonished whistle. Just imagine someone suddenly switching full ramming speed into cross-examining your elderly aunt over fake babies and bloodline treacheries at Princess Dianastian's orphan calibration retreat in the Hunza Mountains. Only Meg's fully cashed quest for vindication could champion a poor nonagenarian news legends into ritual crucifixions over storybook hussy babies. As the former actress demonstrated no intentions of halting her furious onslaught anytime soon, Pauley attempted on multiple occasions to regain control of the sputtering interview by appealing to any semblance of reason or decorum. However, sources indicate Markle appeared to only ramp up hostile volume and virulence each time the venerated broadcaster sought to establish any guardrails or return to substantive lines of questioning. It just kept intensifying into this tornado of buzzwords about race-shaming modern womanhood and stealing the birth narrative from non-binary matrices, all hurled at Jane like boiling masculinity custody hexes, recounted production assistant Dana Wilkins, still sounding audibly unsettled from her proximity to ringside. Oh, and at some point she started mantra-screaming these explicit demands for Ms. Pauley to slide nude into the waters of Shung's truth-unbirthing tub for persumverations of the world's pranic dissemblance until proven worthy by noble sages in the Central Plains. Despite the increasingly surreal and disturbing outbursts, Pauley maintained her professionalism throughout the duress according to all crew members present. But once Markle began physically removing articles of her own clothing in between bellowed declarations about preparturing vengeful hominid praying male ancestries, producers made the call to shut down filming. Security personnel were summoned to provide a careful exit for the legendary host away from any escalations of unruly conduct, while also tending to the former Duchess's own immediate needs after her deteriorating mental state devolved into a concerning display. Honestly, at one point I thought we were about to witness Meghan perform some type of invocation yogi dance or sinew-popping contortionist fourth trimester until the guards showed up, gaped Wilkins, seemingly still rattled. Just kept maniacally scatworming around on the studio floor hurling sacred obscenities about mothers being stolen from mother, over and over, louder and louder. I don't know what ends up finally triggering security pulling the ripcords, but Christ am I relieved they did before any ritualistic placentophagy broke out those Prussian Solomonings. Whatever combination of frazzled nerves or psychological distress may have precipitated her meltdown remain unclear. But with the studio audience looking on in a mix of shock and discomfort, Markle's incendiary comments directed at Pauley finally escalated to the point of requiring disciplined removal from the CBS broadcast location by crisis negotiators. The Duchess was eventually transported to an undisclosed medical facility for preliminary psychiatric evaluations concerning her clearly destabilizing condition after repeated verbal attempts at de-escalation were unsuccessful, sources confirm. While Markle's abhorrent behavior and disturbing descent into incoherent histrionics obviously derailed any chance of footage from the interview airing, the second-hand recountings from eyewitnesses have stirred fierce debate across social media. Discussion forums have seen intense divides over the most ethical and compassionate path forward, with some condemning the controversial royal as having finally crossed into reprehensible conduct beyond reproach, while others express rising empathy that such an incident could highlight legitimate mental health crises requiring committed care rather than scorn. Clearly everything about this outburst was incredibly triggering and fundamentally damaging to the collective reputation Ms. Markle has cultivated for herself over recent years, particularly related to motherhood identities, remarked royal commentator Richard Fitzwilliams weighing in on the fallout.